Larry Gillespie, a retired Christian school psychologist, has published a book, The Coping Strategy, Choosing a Life of Wholeness in a Broken World. The truths embedded in the coping strategy are universal, reflected in research-based psychology, and anchored in the wisdom of the sacred writings.
The phrase, how to maintain mental health, was searched at record volumes this past year, 2021, according to a recently released report by Google. This report is probably not surprising. However, its implications are most significant. Globally, millions of us humans have not been feeling very whole during recent days. You and I may read the morning headlines and refer to the stress of the times. We become physically, psychologically, and spiritually drained as we attempt to adapt to the unrelenting flow of change into our personal lives. Ultimately, we may describe ourselves as being stressed out or burned out. Then over the top of this cacophony of events, someone like me has the audacity to assert that you and I can realistically live lives of wholeness in the midst of all the brokenness in the world around us. Hi, I'm Larry, and I'm excited about this opportunity to share with you the central message of a book that I had published several years ago. The book's message has become most timely given the general wear and tear of life, compounded by a world pandemic, unprecedented political polarization, and all that other stuff that permeates our current events. The book is titled The Coping Strategy, Choosing a Life of Wholeness in a Broken World. The project related to this book's message has become my passion. This video is associated with that project and provides a general overview of the coping strategy, a 6-point stress and life management plan. We live in a world of brokenness, broken relationships, broken families, broken churches, broken schools, broken communities, broken businesses, broken governments, broken dreams, and broken hearts. It can easily appear that we have few, if any, significant resources to cope with this ubiquitous state. But I'm here to deliver good news. In the midst of our broken world, it is indeed possible for us to live lives of wholeness. We can even experience a state of psychological equilibrium that St. Paul described as transcending our human understanding. But on the other hand, we all must contend with that part of the human condition that we refer to as stress. One of my favorite stories describes an aspiring businessman working in the high-pressure financial district of New York City. Each evening, he would leave his office promptly at 5 o'clock in order to catch the ferry home in time for dinner. One evening, running late, he gets to the dock just in time to find the boat out a few feet from shore. Breaking into a mad dash, followed by a daring leap, he ultimately finds himself clinging with one hand to his briefcase and to the rail of the boat with the other. After attempting to regain his composure, dusting the seat of his trousers, he looks up to discover a lady who has been watching this whole scenario. To the lady, he exclaims, "Wow, am I stressed out?" To which he receives the response, "Apparently so, because this boat is coming in." Perhaps with me, you too can identify with this story. There have been times that it seemed that the harder that I tried to get ahead, the more behind I got. And those are times that have certainly been characterized by that which I refer to as stress. Stress, it's a word with which we're all familiar. But I heard someone comment that the word is being used in so many different ways that for many of us its actual meaning has become somewhat obscure. So what do we mean when we speak of stress? What is it that we're really talking about? Based on years of studying the subject with an academic background in education, counseling, psychology, and theology, the best definition that I can offer is stress is a state of physical, psychological, and spiritual strain. Such strain can be positive or negative, real or imagined, and it places a demand for adaptation upon the individual. Our grand designer has equipped us to deal effectively and efficiently with stress in the short term. When we experience such acute stress, we assume a war footing during which our autonomic nervous systems prepare us for either fight or flight. Other physiological responses can provide for that which has been referred to as a tend and befriend response. The resulting cascade of chemical and electrical activity here is absolutely miraculous in its effect. The somewhat complementary parasympathetic nervous system subsequently attempts to achieve a more quiet state of rest and digestion after the threat has passed. The goal here is somewhat of a return to a state of business as usual. However, when the stress is unremitting and we do not have time to regroup before the next stressful event, we become vulnerable to that, which can be extremely detrimental. Confronted with such chronic stress, the otherwise miraculous cascade becomes our foe instead of our friend. This condition is somewhat like having the gas pedal in an automobile continuously pounded into its floorboard. Eventually, something is going to break. Stress does not cause disease, as do viruses and bacteria. However, chronic stress can compromise our immune systems, rendering them relatively ineffective when confronted with disease and infection. Consequently, we can become much more vulnerable to physical maladies such as the common cold or a potentially terminal disease like cancer. Stress can impact us significantly on psychological and spiritual levels as well. We may experience difficulties focusing our attention and thinking clearly as we experience seemingly uncontrollable thoughts and their accompanying anxiety. We may also experience an intense sense of powerlessness and a lack of meaning and purpose in our lives. We may ultimately feel spiritually disconnected. The comedian Lily Tomlin has been quoted as saying, "Reality is the leading cause of stress among those in touch with it." She's right. Stress is a part of the real world and cannot be entirely avoided. Indeed, to do so would render one lifeless. But the good news is that we are not destined to become hopeless victims of its potentially dangerous and deleterious effects. While speaking to his followers, the great master teacher, Jesus Christ, stated, "These things I've spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world." These words likewise indicate that stress is part of the human condition and is impossible to avoid. But there is provision for us to overcome its challenges. He has overcome the world, and the scriptures reveal, "Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world." These words sound absolutely heavenly and divine, but how do we make it work in a practical manner on planet Earth in the 21st century? Herein lies the purpose of the coping strategy. In creating the coping strategy, I've collected the wisdom of ancient philosophy and some of the world's most acclaimed thinkers and research scientists, anchored in the truths of the sacred writings, specifically the Old and the New Testaments. I've simply provided a ribbon that ties them all together. These are principles that can help us create a more joyful, healthy, and fulfilled life ever after. They will protect and provide for us and for those with whom we have influence. These are the truths that build lives of wholeness in a broken world. The coping strategy does not involve specialized training or complicated long-term therapy. The 6 keys in the strategy are easy to learn and powerful in their ability to promote big changes in your life. As you apply these keys, you will begin to feel empowered to transcend stress, depression, hopelessness, alienation, and anxiety through constructive thought, choice, and action. Now, let's look at the coping strategy, a plan of choice. Using the word coping, C-O-P-I-N-G, as a memory device, each letter represents one of the essential 6 keys in the strategy. The C reminds me to compensate, to choose to compensate constructively. Each key in the strategy is predicated upon the power of this initial key, the power of choice. According to Dake's commentary, there are in excess of 4,000 references in the Old and New Testaments regarding personal volition. In the Old Testament, after specifying the terms of his covenant with Israel in Deuteronomy 30:19, God declares, "I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live." In the New Testament, the writer of the letter to the Hebrews states, "By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season." Thus, it appears that God deems our power to choose as being pretty important. Accordingly, I will choose to exercise my free will in order to make decisions that will foster the development of my growth and the growth of those with whom I am involved. I will choose to acknowledge those factors in my life that I can control and those I cannot control. I will choose to recognize that although there are many factors in my life over which I have little or no control, I do have control over how I decide to respond to those factors. I will choose to live my life from the inside out rather than from the outside in. Therefore, I will not be victimized. I will choose to accept responsibility for my behavior. I will choose to evaluate my behavior by asking, 1, what am I doing? Awareness. 2, is it helping? Assessment. 3, if it is not helping, I will ask, what can I do that will help? Alternatives. Bottom line, I will choose to do that which is right. Secondly, the O underscores the importance to choose to overcome. It is here that our sense of competency in various areas is addressed. In the book, If You Want to Walk on Water, You've Got to Get Out of the Boat, author John Ortberg asserts that failure is not an event. Instead, it is a judgment regarding an event. And it is important to remember that while there are many events that escape our control, judgments involve our chosen perceptions. In the Old Testament, in Numbers 13:30, it is recorded, "And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, 'Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it.'" In the New Testament, we're exhorted, "Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good." Accordingly, each day I will choose to recognize that I am an overcomer. I will choose to perceive myself as being lovable and capable. I will choose to capitalize on my strengths in order to compensate constructively for my weaknesses. Bottom line, I will choose to be successful. Thirdly, the letter P underscores the benefits that results when I choose to pause to nurture my spirit. It is at this juncture that matters of faith are addressed, including cultivating a life of prayer and meditation in times of regular, quiet devotion. Meaning and purpose in life becomes established here. In the Old Testament, in Psalm 46:10, we are instructed, "Be still and know that I am God." In the New Testament, in 1 Thessalonians 4:11, we are exhorted, "Study to be quiet." Accordingly, I will choose to set aside a specific time for privacy each day to pause in order to nurture my spirit. I will choose to find meaning and purpose in my life. Bottom line, I will choose to take care of my inner self. The letter I draws my attention to the need to choose to initiate after I have paused to seek God's guidance. In the Old Testament, in Proverbs 10:4, it is stated, "He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich." In the New Testament, in James 1:22, we're instructed, "But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves." Accordingly, I will choose to utilize the resources available to me in order to initiate specific strategies that will help. When I choose not to act, I will do so because it is the constructive thing to do rather than as a result of my irresponsibility. Bottom line, I will choose to begin when it is time to act. The letter N reminds me to continually take my thoughts into captivity as I choose to negate negative thinking. A wise person has indicated that when I sow a thought, I reap an action. When I sow an action, I reap a habit. When I sow a habit, I reap a character. When I sow a character, I reap my destiny. In the Old Testament, in Proverbs 23:7, we're told, "For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he." In the New Testament, in Philippians 4:8, St. Paul declares, "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things." Accordingly, I will choose to do a checkup from the neck up each day. I will choose to acknowledge the power of my thoughts and will decide to be positive. I will choose to recognize that I am not disturbed by people, things, and events, but rather the views that I decide to have of them. Bottom line, I will choose to emphasize the positive. Finally, the letter G emphasizes that it is imperative that I choose to give, allowing others to give to me in a manner that is constructive. Herein lies the ultimate principle operationalized in the love chapter in 1 Corinthians 13. This key also enhances a three-dimensional love consistent with the great commandments, as I love God and my neighbor as myself. In the Old Testament, in Proverbs 11:25, we're instructed, "The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself." In the New Testament, in Luke 6:38, it is asserted, "Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that ye meet withal, it shall be measured to you again." Accordingly, each day I will choose to recognize the healing power of giving. I will choose to give to others and also allow them to give to me in a manner that is constructive. Ultimately, I will give all the glory to God. Bottom line, I will help others and allow others to help me. To summarize the coping strategy, each day I will choose to live my life on purpose as I C, choose to compensate constructively, O, choose to overcome, P, choose to pause to nurture my spirit, I, choose to initiate, N, choose to negate negative thinking, and G, choose to give, allowing others to give to me in a manner that is constructive. Thank you for watching this overview of the coping strategy, choosing a life of wholeness in a broken world. Release the power of this strategy into your life by practicing its 6 keys consistently on a daily basis. Ultimately, they will become internalized, resulting in keystone habits that leave much that is constructive in their wake. Please visit Amazon.com, where the book of this title is available in ebook and paperback formats. Finally, the most important choice that you and I will ever make is what we decide to do with Jesus Christ. If you would like to become a Christ follower, please visit the website of Restoration Church in Jacksonville, Florida. This has been my home church for many years, and I am grateful for their support in the production of this presentation. Thank you for watching, and as my pastor says, may you become marked with a target that continually attracts the divine blessings and favor of God.
These are the matters that so often consume our energies and seize our day. The truths embedded in the coping strategy are universal, reflected in research-based psychology, and anchored in the wisdom of the sacred writings. Typical responses of those who have read the book and/or embraced the strategy are similar to,
"I have based a whole series of sermons for my congregation on the strategy.
I want a copy of the coping strategy for everyone that is employed in my medical practice.
I just couldn't stop reading this book."
The coping strategy probably saved my life.
The Coping Strategy is now available at Amazon.com.